3, 2, 1. Okay, good morning. It is Friday, September the 23rd, 7:30 a.m. This is the J88 North American 2022 weather briefing. Myself, Shay Gibson with SailFlow, and I also have Andrew Waters with Quantum Sales with me on the call, and hopefully Carrie will be along. I don't think Todd's going to be with us this morning, but he's out working on boats. But we'll go ahead with the slide deck and then get right into the weather presentation. So again, the speakers today, myself and Andrew Waters. If you need us, here's our phone numbers if you'd like to go back and watch and pause on this particular slide. You can see the phone numbers there and the emails. You can reach me at sgibson@weatherflow.com. Real quick for housekeeping rules, webinar is live at 7:30 a.m. each day. And if you have any questions or feedback, please put that in the chat box now during the event, and we'll field those questions as we wrap it up. Otherwise, it'll go out to the social media platforms, and from there you can leave your feedback or your questions for any future events. All right, shameless plug for SailFlow. If you haven't tried our app, it is free to download and free to try for 2 weeks if you've never tried the Plus or Pro version. And we do have the Pro version, which is free for that 2-week, no strings attached trial version if you like. It is a great app to have if you've never done it before. We do have some stations in the area. We have over 500 stations around the coastal US and outlying territories, but we do have several along the Great Lakes, which are very helpful for the wind forecast. We also have one on the St. Joseph buoy, which is on the southeast corner. We have some right along Chicago as well. And then we also use the NDBC and Great Lakes Environmental Research Lab Network mesoNets. We ingest those into our products as well. So plenty of data out there on the water for you to check out through SailFlow. Again, the racing area off the breakwaters, pretty simple. I think yesterday, I don't know if that moved or not. I know the winds were pretty rough when we started out. So Andrew, what did you see yesterday on the water? How were things out there considering what the wind was doing? I know we still had some gusts up into the upper 20s, and then it laid down a bit, ended up being some decent racing without a lot of carnage, right?
Yeah, so certainly yesterday was a bit full on in terms of the velocity being up, and then the sea state as the day wore on seemed to get a little bit bigger. The wind sort of dropped for race 2 just a little bit, and then it moved to the right, which sort of built the sea state up. But yeah, I mean, it was good sailing, a lot of fun, a different mode, if you like, that the boats went into, and some decisions were having to be made on sail choices. So it was good. But yeah, it was good to see that there wasn't really too much in the way of carnage. Probably a couple of boats coming fairly close to one another, but I understand that we didn't have any damage and nobody got hurt. So it was a fun day. Looking forward to today.
Good, very good. All right, I'm gonna go back to share screen. Looking at the surface map for today, the WPC has this high pressure that starts out directly overhead. I think that's a little farther north because we're seeing a modest easterly gradient across the lake right now. And as we go into time, that high is going to drift off to the southeast and eventually over to the east over Ohio. So looks like it's becoming an Ohio Valley high, and we're going to see those winds veer from east over and from the southeast and maybe even full south-southeast. One thing we got to worry about for today is things getting a little bit messy in the afternoon. And reason why is because we have a warm front that's advancing up to the northeast towards the Great Lakes, and that's bringing some troughing, some clouding. We're starting to see the clouding enter the area now, and that could bring some showers for this afternoon, but I still think we're going to hold a decent gradient. You can see here on the visible satellite, just barely as the sun's coming up, see that clouding starting to enter right here along the warm front, which is just segmented just to our south and west. So this will continue to push up across the area, and then we're looking at a few showers for this afternoon. If you look at the HRRR or Precip, this is probably one of the better models that we have in our suite, but I'm using Weatherbell for this particular run. And we can see the clouding start to move in, the moisture starts to increase along that warm front, and this is UTC time, so we see 6:15 in the right corner, but that's 2:15, so we have to minus 4 hours out, especially for Central Time. But we get into the afternoon by 2-3 o'clock, and it looks like we're starting to see a few light showers. So nothing heavy, no thunderstorms associated with it, but just some drizzle, maybe some messy patches of rain as we get into the early to mid-afternoon. I wouldn't say early, it's more like 1:30, 2 o'clock. If we see a few sprinkles before that, I wouldn't be surprised. But just to understand that the moisture profile is going to be building through the day. We're going to see some increased shower activity, and then maybe petering off into tonight. And I think that area of troughing is going to continue to sort of fizzle in and out, and it may pulse in and out. So we may see some more showers tomorrow night as a result. Looking across the area, we're seeing east winds about 11 to 12 knots. And we're looking along the east side of the lake over by Chicago. I know that the Harris Endeavor Crib buoy, it's reading a little bit high. I'm not so sure it's 15. All the other sensors are showing 12 to 13 knots, gusting 15 to 17. I think this is going to continue for the next hour or so, and then it's going to start to fall off. And by the time the race starts, we're going to see winds veering all the way from the southeast. So right now we're at it's about 110 degrees, and then it looks like it's going to veer over from 130 to 140, and eventually by about 1 o'clock, we may be looking at 150 to 160 degrees, and then possibly backing back to southeast at 130 to 140. So it's going to be kind of a toggling of winds, especially when that warm front activity starts to arrive. We might see those winds back a little more southeast again. So where we have high pressure that's trying to force the south-southeast flow in, it looks like it could end up being more southeast overall, simply because that warm front moving into the area. That's just going to affect the gradient just slightly, drop winds to about 8 to 12. We may see 7 to 11 around 12:30, 1 o'clock. As we get to 1 o'clock, back to 8 to 12. So we're going to start the race out. You know, Andrew, we were talking about this a little bit ago. Looks like we're going to back down to about 9 to 13 knots to start. And that's going to be from the east-southeast and veering 130 to 140 from the southeast. Right around 12, that's when we start to go a little more 150-ish. And then as those clouds get a little bit thicker, the winds kind of back a little bit more southeast in time. But I think we're going to hold that 8 to 12 from 12 to 2. And so, and even into 3 o'clock, and then it starts to fall off after that. So if we run the full model suite, we'll see some of the agreement in most of the models here, where we fall off to 8 to 12. That's about what most of the models are in agreement with. I'll still call 9 to 13 just because that slight gradient that's built into the area at 11 o'clock a.m. And then we fall off a little bit. So 12:30 to 1, you know, it's going to be iffy in that field, 7 to 11 knots on that side of the lake, and then kind of coming back up again. I think there's going to be just kind of a steady, modest gradient through the afternoon, just like what the models are depicting. I don't have any disagreements with what they're showing. And sometimes you might find some coastal nuances, especially on the lakes when there's sunshine. Your sea breeze can tend to be a little bit different. When under cloud cover, that's when you kind of get some trickiness to it. As far as swell heights, or I should say wave heights out there, we're still at a residual 3 feet coming in from the east northeast, and that's going to continue to veer over from the east and southeast as the winds veer. So I still think we're going to carry 2 to 3 feet out there. So we'll have really the winds and the waves will be more aligned by the time the race starts. I think we'll have the swell coming from the same direction as the wind, which is great for racing, right? So there's no cross-cutting or secondary or tertiary wave activity going on out there. Like yesterday, I think there was some bounciness and chaos. I think we're in a much better position today. So I'll bring you back in, Andrew, and we'll hand it over to Carrie Klingler. It looks like Todd did join us after all this morning. So thanks, Todd. Andrew, let's talk about the race ring and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, thanks, Shay. Yeah, I don't actually have too much to add to you. I think it sounds like things are back to, if you like, a little bit more normal. So, you know, obvious things to look out for is, you know, rig adjustments will be different to yesterday. Sail choices should be easier today, if there are really any. But yeah, I mean, it just everything's just sort of a bit of a reset, and get out there early and go and get a feel for it.
Very good. Okay, Carrie, anything from your side?
Well, you know, I'm just wondering about the cloud cover and the effect of normal sea breeze. Normal sea breeze is out of the east here, right? So if you have a sunny day, it's going to want to drag the wind direction towards the east. But with the cloud cover and the effect of that on here, it looks like the first 2 hours of racing, that could be very variable, and the right side of the course could still be wide open for shifts. So it's going to be a very challenging day. It's not going to be the straightforward sunny Chicago hit the east side of the race course, you know, come in on Port Tack Leylon. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to be like record your shifts before the race, get a really good feel for what's going on, and then stay in phase. You know, it was really shifty yesterday, and I bet you it's going to be really shifty today as well.
Right. Now, good words. And you know, that begs to say, even if there's open pockets of sunshine, we could see winds backing a little bit more, right? So we can't rule out the east by south or east southeast directions when the sun is out, right? So you're exactly right with the sea breeze / lake breeze effect that occurs out there. So just be aware that there may be some toggling between 120 and 160. I think the more clouding, the more backing it does, or versus when the sun is out, when it might shift a little more right. So I think that's a really good point. And I think that's a good forecast for today. We'll go with that. We'll go ahead and share screen again. We'll talk a little bit about tomorrow and run the model suite real quick. Now, what's going to happen tomorrow is we have more warm front activity that's going to be approaching the area. And as we get into, the winds look like they're going to be kind of light and variable at the start for tomorrow morning. And so it really is kind of, there's some agreement from the models from the south, and that depends on where the warm front's going to be. But it really is going to be tricky for tomorrow morning. And I think it begs to say we're going to need a little bit more time before we really zero in on tomorrow's forecast. But just know that warm front's going to be advancing a little further to the east. And then it's going to be conjoined with the low pressure that's going to be heading towards the area by Saturday night. So the rain chances are going to increase through the day. And we're looking at a light to modest breeze for tomorrow. And I think that's a wrap for today. I don't have any other, I don't see any questions from the chat box, but it looks like winds tomorrow, we may start out south to southwest and then veering west through the day. That's pretty much what the models are hinting at, and going a little bit lighter. So hopefully we'll have more than 2 to 6 knots, but it's not definite at this point. Just know that the winds may be veering from southwest over to west. And I think that's a wrap for this morning. If any other panelists have any other questions or feedback?
Nope, do not. Thanks, Shay. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
Shay.
everybody have a great day on the water. Yep, Todd, you too. Have a great day on the water. Best of luck to you, and Godspeed. Have a good day out there. Thanks.
Cheers,
Bye.
man.